I'm here with Lauren, Scott, Katrina, and Lindsay. We're going to do a presentation on a collaborative tool called Canva. Canva is a versatile and user-friendly online platform that empowers individuals and businesses to create stunning visual content. Launched in 2013, Canva has grown to become one of the most popular graphic design tools out there. Whether you're working on social media, presentations, business reports, marketing, or personal projects, Canva offers a multitude of uh, interface that simplifies the design process. One of Canvas's biggest advantages is its extensive library of templates, fonts, images, and design elements, enabling users to craft professional quality visuals without the need for advanced graphic skills. From small business owners to educators to social media influencers and corporate teams, Canva is widely embraced as accessibility and efficiency. We're going to Some of the things that we're going to cover how to access Canva. Also, we will be covering some of the practical applications. We'll move on to some of the pros and cons, some of the tips for success for using Canva. We'll have a demonstration, and then afterwards we'll have a discussion. Now, let's start with accessing Canva. Scott, take it away.
Yes, thanks, Charlie. Um, Accessing Canva is pretty straightforward. You can utilize several different browsers: Safari, Chrome, Firefox, Edge. You go to the website canva.com. Once you're there, you will click on sign up, enter in your information. You can use that utilizing a Facebook account, a Google account, email address. Also, you can utilize your school account if you have one. Once you have entered that information, Canva is pretty intuitive in terms of how it processes your info. So if you are part of a school, it will take you to a different platform to where you can select if you want to enable that pro account, or you can utilize three different platforms to choose from. There is a free version. And then from there, it is just basically a form of features. There is a step-by-step guide to really walk you through all of the features of how to access Canva to get your account set up. So it is a very intuitive process, very easy. Would encourage you to utilize this with more information. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Lauren.
Hello. So I'm going to give you some practical applications of Canva. There are a lot of words on this screen, and I promise I will not read them all to you, but Canva is such a powerful tool along with all of their integrations that I was having a hard time even whittling down the list of practical applications of Canva, but wanted to run through a few because I feel like some people might have the preconceived notion that Canva is really just for design and making presentations, sort of like a PowerPoint. And while it does do that fantastically, and as Scott said, it's very intuitive and user-friendly, it really has the power to do much, much more. Inside those presentations, you can have documents, embedded polls and quizzes. For group projects, I'm actually using one right now, a Canva whiteboard, where we kind of have a lot of different objects that we can place on there. Remote collaboration has a lot of integrations that are spectacular for the collaboration. A lot of the integrations do require a sign-in, but if you just have a couple of them, it's not that really that big of a deal. And then creative assignments, all kinds of stuff. Videos, their video editing software is spectacular, really can embed into presentations, what have you. And then Katie, if you wouldn't mind, thank you. A lot of portfolios, I think, was one that I'm really interested in using. I have not been able to use it so far, but as a graduate student, really starting to work on my portfolio and try to put stuff together for the future. One of my favorite things is now it is integrated into Google Workspace, Slack, Teams, Asana, Salesforce all have integrations with Canva to really help streamline with collaboration and working remotely together. And my last one I put on here is infographics. I haven't messed with the infographics either, but I'm really excited to because they have some great templates in which to do that I think can be fantastic for presenting research material. And now I will pass it off to Lindsay for pros and cons.
Thanks, Lauren. Just a few pros and cons here of Canva. So pros, it is a really easy to use interface if you're just a kind of a casual computer user. That drag and drop interface is really helpful. You just kind of move things around. You don't have to know code or know the back end of it to really be able to use it well. I think we mentioned this a couple times, but really the shining star of it is the templates that you can use. Even with the free account, there's hundreds, there's 3 million stock images to use. I know in previous work, I've had to think about, oh gosh, I need to find a stock image to use. And sometimes it could be hard to find an exact stock image to use and find one that you can use free of charge. And so I think that is a huge benefit and asset to it. Also cross-platform use. I'm working on a project with a different group right now for a different class, and it's great because I can look at it on my phone, I can look at it on the website, I can look at it on the app, and so you can look at it on the go, and it's always going to look in the same way. So the cross functionality between different devices, I think, is a real pro for it. Real-time collaboration, I find this one really neat. You can work in the same document, the same presentation, whiteboard with others, and you can see what they're doing. So it has their name beside it, and you can see what they're editing, how they're editing it. So many people can use it at once. Again, the user interface is really nice. It has this little arrow and their name, so you can very clearly see who is where in the document. So as you're talking through something, you can see like maybe you're talking through two different things and you didn't realize it, so you can get on the same page, quite literally. Cons, full access does require paid membership. I think this is a pretty common con for a lot of these products that we're looking at. They want to get you in, get you using the product, but if you want to use all of the different things, it does require a paid account, but there's still a lot you can do. Like, I don't have a paid account, but I've been able to use a lot of the features and work very seamlessly with my groups. Limited offline functionality does require internet access. Where to begin? So this is one thing that, while it's very user-friendly, there's so many tools available. As Lauren was talking about, there's so many things that you just think to yourself, like, where do I begin here? Like, there's so much to look at. There's so much to do. The help support documents on the website is really helpful, but I found myself when I was looking through it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much here. How do I even like digest this? So, getting comfortable with it is helpful, but there's just a lot there. No team-wide chats. You can chat individually, but not as a team. And some of the other collaborative like Teams, it doesn't necessarily have that, but as Lauren said, maybe interfaces with Teams is really helpful. So those are just some of the pros and cons. I am going to turn it over to Katie.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll talk about some tips for success, and actually some of these have already been talked about, but I just really want to highlight them a little bit more. I think Lindsay, Lauren, Scott, you all mentioned templates, and for me, I think that was my number one tip for success, because that is where I almost always start in a template, because once you start in a template that kind of has that aesthetic or vision that you want, you can really piece it together to where it doesn't look like you used a template. So that is probably my biggest tip if you're just getting started, playing around with templates first. And then there's a feature for like a color palette. So especially if you're doing any like branding, you can have like a color palette set for your project, so that when you are modifying colors within the project that you're working on, you can stick within 4 or 5 colors, and that way it kind of stays consistent and aesthetic. And then I really like to use like folders and like groups to manage different parts of the project. So you can, which admittedly my Canva is a little disorganized right now, but there is like a folder set up where you can group things together like you would in like a OneDrive. And I find that to be really helpful to keep yourself organized. This is also another one of my favorite tips is that there is an alignment tool. So every part, so like this presentation was created with Canva, and I did use a template, but every piece is like a movable is like its own individual piece. So for example, this target symbol is its own, and so are each of these, and then these are each of their individual text boxes. So in order to make it look clean and consistent, there's like an alignment tool that helps you keep everything in line. It even tells you like how much space is between each image or each component so that you can keep it consistent throughout. So there's little tools like that while you are making edits that I think is just very helpful. And then I think, Lauren, you really talked about this a lot, is the collaborative features. You can share and like design with others. And that is something that I do in my like professional work is a colleague and I, we will share work through very similar to like a Google Drive or OneNote, or not OneDrive, where there can be more than one collaborator on it. So I really like that. And then this last one, I forget who touched on this, but there is a knowledge base provided by Canva. So you can go and learn how to do a lot of those things. I think, as it was previously mentioned, it can be a little overwhelming. There is a lot there, but it is a helpful resource as you are getting started in Canva. And then next we are going to do a demo. So I am going to go ahead and exit out of maybe. There it is. Okay, exit out and we will go into Canva. And Lauren, did you want to start?
Yes. For the, I'm so sorry. For the demo, when you are in Canva, first place you want to do, I always go to the search bar and I put in my whichever template, whether it's a website or a presentation or a document, whatever I want to put in there. Yes, great. Website. And even in the website, there are so many templates and there's different, as you can see on the top, you have your templates, you can do it by design. It really is, you can really get lost in the sauce here. I do want to say, like Lindsay was saying, even with their Knowledge Hub, there is so much available that you really can. I try to be pretty specific in my search bar for the website or any search item that I would like. But if you want to just click into one of them for me, Katie, or you can go onto the left and hit Create Design. It's as easy as this. And then it just pops up and here we are ready to start designing. All of your tools are on the left. All of your elements are things like shapes and pretty much anything you can come up with. Same with the search bar on each one of your navigation menu on the left. There's a search bar on the top that you can type in. Try anything, really. Colors, I'll use school, use education, because I use this for all of my presentations in virtual school. The frames are really fun because those you can pop pictures into, all kinds of stuff. And then as I do want to show the brand kit, like Katie had mentioned before. With the brands, the colors are there. The other wonderful part about the brand kits are fonts. You can do your logos so that you have everything that you need for your brand right there in a brand kit, and you can have multiples. I have 4 right now. So you can have all of your stuff right there and ready. I know icons is a fun one. I know Katie made a couple of icons for us for the Canvas page. So her brand kit could have those, you know, professionally created icons that she already did, all kinds of stuff for the brands. The last thing that I really want to show is the apps, if you wouldn't mind clicking on the apps tool. This is where all of your other integrations are. Jotform is a fantastic one. That's a scheduler tool that can be integrated. QR code is one. For a website, integrated a poll for all of you to take and interact with. Lots, as you can see with just her scrolling, there are so many. I would say that's probably one of the cons for sure, Lindsay. Now that I'm really thinking about it, it really is the amount of options that you have are sometimes overwhelming, certainly. Oh, and draw. Sorry, I forgot about draw. For those of you that draw, I can't draw anything. But if you have like the trackpad and all of those, and there are some smoothing features, I haven't messed with it much because I'm terrible at drawing. But it is nice. Sometimes I will also use Canva with my Cricut machine. So when I do Cricut designs for my vinyl cutter, I will kind of mix and match like in between if there's a really specific line or anything. I've used the draw tool for that so that I can save it as a SVG file and that it can go right into my Cricut design space. So there are other options there too on how, if you download, because you can also download all of your presentations, all of that. Websites, obviously you cannot. But with download settings, you have lots of different options for download settings as well.
Awesome. And then you had mentioned your website. Would you like me to jump into that?
Sure. This was also just a super quick, and it says that it's optional to just browse the website. This was a very quick, less than 2-hour website that I put together. The options here also are for the navigation bar, which is on the top. You can name your slides and it will auto-populate a navigation menu for you. I did not actually create that. Canva did it for me. So as you can see, use the same exact template as we did for our presentation and just popped it into a website. Super easy. The frames I was talking about are what you're seeing here is they have this kind of outline of like the computer. We just drop our image into it. Really fun. And if you'll go to the last page for me, please, Katie, for the poll. This is a live interaction poll that we would love for you to interact with, and it will actually register how many people have voted and what the percentages are, which I think is fantastic. And I made this site too because there are so many practical applications of Canva that I just felt that there had to be some other way to present them all because I didn't want to just bore you to tears with reading off all of the. I could talk about it for a very long time is my full story. And that's our little website too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So that is for our demo. We can jump into conclusion.
So, as you have seen so far, Canva has revolutionized the way individuals and businesses approach graphic design, high quality content. And whether you're a business owner or a teacher, a social media manager, or an influencer, Canva provides the tools that bring creative visions to life. And Canva continues to evolve, ensuring that users are all up to date with new content all the time. Now we can move on to the discussion.
Okay, so we have a few discussion questions that we are going to talk about and that we would love for you all to think about when you are making your posts. So I want to ask each one of you, how would you, if you haven't already, because I know we have a couple of new users, how would you or could you, or have in the past, integrated this into your academic or professional activities?
Yeah, I can start. I have used Canva for a little while, and I actually started with using Canva in my personal life, just like little silly, cutesy things. Like I've done invitations in Canva. That's actually where I probably use it the most in my personal life. And then I also am like super nerdy with my friends, and like we were like planning a girls' trip. So we all made presentations for like where we wanted to go on our girls' trip. And so we just had like a night, like a presentation night, and did that. So it was just fun to be kind of like creative in that aspect. And I've done like my LinkedIn banner I've created in Canva. There's like actually a there's templates for that. I've done, and then professionally, I use it in work, as I had like said before. I am an instructional design specialist at OSU. And so I create like little icons. And actually, you'll see on our Canva page that we created those graphics that I put in there. Those were all from Canva. I created those using like OSU branding. So those are ways that I have personally used them in academic and like personal, I'm sorry, in professional and personal. And then obviously everything that we did here, it was used in Canva. So that's how we've used it academically too. So I find it really useful for all of those.
I can honestly tell you that as a teacher, I've never used Canva professionally or personally, but as a teacher, I could see the limitless tools that I have access to here. And honestly, uh, high schoolers are a little bit hard to get their attention, and I see how Canva can be interactive, and I just keep them interested and keep them engaged. And this is one of the most important things that I learned about this whole thing about Canva. So I like it. It's a good tool.
I'm probably a newer user as well of Canva. I've known about it for maybe like 6 months when I was in a different class. But I think that like I think I referred to it before, but the thing that I found the coolest in it is that whiteboard feature where you can work with like multiple different people and you can add things to a whiteboard. So it's almost like you're, sitting in a room with a real dry erase board, writing on it all the things that you need to think about, especially in like a big multi-step project where you all have to think about all these various things that are going on and be able to really collaborate together. I mean, just yesterday when working on a project, I was able to, with the group, write down, okay, I'm going to send this to our client. Everybody go look at it. So everyone just had the ability to go look in there. So we didn't have to send around yet another email, yet another document. Everything can be housed in the same place. So that's what I found it most. I haven't used it for my personal life, but I like the girls trip ideas. That sounds cool. I could see where it would come in handy with lots of different fun little invite things too.
And one thing I did want to touch on that we hadn't yet, that Charles had mentioned, was the classroom. So Canva does have Canva Classroom. We didn't talk about it a ton because it is kind of a completely different, I don't want to say platform, but an integration. And so it can be used in the classroom with students. Teachers can add students. And you don't always have to have a login to interact with Canva. So I'm not really sure how I've used it with classrooms. The students used a login, but they don't always have to. So that's something to explore also with the classrooms. I think that's a spectacular idea, Charlie, because high school students are really hard to engage. I can speak to that for sure.
Yes, they are. And I definitely can't wait to use this for my next girls trip too.
That's hard to follow right there. It appears that we're kind of hitting all three of our discussion questions, which is great. So I think I'm just going to hit on the what aspects of Canva are you curious to explore further? And this was actually out of a separate class that I'm currently taking, where we are challenged with taking videos and presenting them working with them, editing them, and I see where Canva has the ability to utilize different modalities, whether that be through YouTube, your own personal videos that you've made, and how that actually gets presented. So that would be something I'm interested in seeing how that develops and what educationally can be brought forth and what powerful tools it has. So that's something I'm interested in seeing next.
Yeah, it is a very powerful tool that I think all of us together probably could take a full day to tell you all of the wonderful things about it. But I think that's also one of the fantastic things. It seems almost limitless, the ideas that you could come up with to use Canva for. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to add before we wrap up and hand this over to all of our peers? Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for spending the last few minutes listening to our presentation on Canva, and a really lovely day.
Thanks, everybody.
Did you stop recording, Lindsay? I'm so sorry. My voice is free.